every year has that one game, something that just seems to come right out of nowhere and take the internet by storm. These games are normally pretty small and cheap, so they can spread pretty much everywhere and pretty quickly, word of mouth, stuff like that. You had your FNAF and your Undertale, which are very similar games to this type. Terraria, games like that. And this year, the game that did that, besides another FNAF game that was a surprise FNAF 6, was Doki Doki Literature Club. Now, let me tell you a bit of a story. I occasionally like to go check games on Steam, putting them on my wish list for when the sales are starting up. Mainly because, it's an easier way for them to tell me when a game I want on my wish list is on sale. Something like that. Anyway, while I'm checking it yet again, I noticed on my recommendation thread a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. It's mainly due to the fact that I like visual novel games, as I am a fan of the Danganronpa series as well as the Ace Attorney series. Anyway, I looked at the list and saw this game on there, but it looked like the kind of visual novel that I don't really like to pick up. A cutesy anime-ass dating sim, and just a standard tripe that didn't even have the glorious quality to be hentai. So I skipped over it. Then I started hearing people talking about it and decided to look up what exactly this game was because the whole of the internet wouldn't shut up about it in my certain circles. And I was really surprised by what I saw. This game is only very surface layer generic. Basically, similar to a lot of games that kind of slip under the radar, it's very surface level generic, but when you get into it, you discover what's actually going on, and what's actually going on is more interesting than what's on the surface. And honestly, if I looked on the store page when I was on Steam, I probably would have realized that sooner instead of having to spoil the whole thing for myself. So yeah, the basic plot is fairly generic as your generic anime boy number 15, who's invited to join this generic anime school club, in this case a literature club, with his generic childhood friend character, and meets three other generic, and basically meets three generic anime girls, who are all cutesy and are supposed to be 18. I mean, I think one is supposed to be 16 or 17, it's just weird, but yeah, whatever. And of course, you get your thing where you get to pick who you believe is best girl, romancer, dater, hit that, whatever. But then the game, for lack of a better term, seems to break, and all the crazy crap starts happening when one of the characters does something completely unexpected for this type of genre of game. I don't really want to say anything more than this because it's major spoilers, and when you get to it, you'll be so shocked and surprised that honestly it'll make you reconsider getting to this point faster. Basically, make you reconsider the whole game. I really don't want to say anything because I believe that the best experience that's somewhere to maybe a FNAF or an Undertale type of game, it's best to go into this game completely blind without much influence. That's kind of ironic considering the fact that I'm influencing you to go buy this game. But I guess I'll just say spoiler warnings. And well, again, please, if you're interested in what I've said so far, please pick this game up because I'm going to start spoiling the game very very soon. Three, two, one. So the crazy stuff starts happening when the childhood friend character, I won't say which one, you'll figure it out yourself, commits suicide. It's an honestly shocking and heartbreaking scene, especially the way it's depicted in the game. But moving on from that very sensitive subject matter, her character is deleted from the entire game world, seemingly by the game itself. And then the game reboots and reloads, and the world just seems to slowly break from there. With all the characters acting stranger and stranger, and more craziness going down across the playthrough. Characters start acting more psychotic, more depressed, more suicidal. Things start seeming odd, and you get little hints that something just isn't right. Such as the gigantic photorealistic eyes on a certain character that you've probably seen on the internet. Again, I don't want to say anything more than this because, again, this is best experiencing all the craziness when you go in blindfolded. Again, it's just perfect to see this go down. But I do have to give a warning before you decide to delve into this world. As I said earlier with the whole suicide point, this game can get a little intense. There are a lot of warnings before and after, even on the store page, that if you can't psychologically handle some of the things that go on here, it's best to just step away from it, and I honestly agree with them completely. If you're someone who can't handle very sensitive subject matters, I'm not making a joke about that. I'm being 100% serious. If you can't handle things like suicide, depression, stuff like that, and your stories, then this is a game that you probably don't want to pick up. But if I've piqued your interest, I have another warning for you. It takes about 2 hours of in-game playthrough for the real craziness to start going down. And, well, this game is a visual novel, so there's a lot of reading and not much, interaction. I mean, there are bits where you interact, but it's mostly just you sitting down and reading. So, if you can't handle 2 hours of just sitting down reading before you get to the crazy weird shit, then again, this isn't the game for you, which is really why it's at the bottom of this list. There's, again, a 2 hour gateway before you can get to the really interesting part of the game, and I feel that's unacceptable in most forms of media. I honestly do believe it is a worthwhile effort, but it's just so boring in a lot of cases, at least for me personally. So, yeah, even for a fan of visual novels, the opening 2 hours of this game are pretty boring until you get to the really crazy part. But, again, if you're still want to try this game out, it's 100% free on Steam, so honestly, you have no excuses for checking out this very curious oddity of a video game. And, yeah, check it out. Again, it's free, so you have very little excuse. One thing that really surprised me is the fact that, well, we haven't really had a Digimon game since Dusk and Dawn on the DS. Note, the DS, not the 3DS. So when Cyber Sleuth happened last year, it was a really big surprise, especially considering the fact that I never would have thought we would have gotten the Digimon game in the West again. The only major flaw I felt with that game was that it was pretty much just a lightly upgraded Vita game. And now we have a new Digimon game in the form of Digimon World Next Order. And it's a Digimon World game. Now, let me tell you this right away. The Digimon World games don't play like Cyber Sleuth. Cyber Sleuth is a traditional turn-based RPG, while Digimon World games are more simulator games. Sort of like an upscale version of those Digimon Tamagotchi games from way back when. And the last one of these kind of games that came out, as I'm aware of, was a remake of the very first Digimon World game on the PSP, which never got released in the West. Again, you see why this game is a gigantic surprise about how it exists. Anyway, this game has a lot riding on it to actually be good, and it's actually pretty good. The basic plot of the game has the players to the digital world to deal with the rampaging Cyberdramon, and from there your journey begins. Traveling across the digital world to find a way home while building up a base town so you can increase your stats and get and increase your partner's abilities to travel around the digital world. The thing I really want to warn you about first is that your Digimon partners, similar to a Monster Rancher game, do grow old and die. Digivolution isn't really tied to a particular you getting stat requirements to level them up. It's basically they just level up to a certain stage, reach that level, and then they just randomly digivolve into whatever stage they meet the requirements at. You don't really have much control over what they digivolve into and what they digivolve from. It's kind of odd, but again, this is more of a simulator game than anything else. But the whole dying and rebirth mechanic that is pivotal to the Digimon franchise is a major element in the way this game is played, because basically once your Digimon returns to its egg from death, it'll keep over to some of the stat growths it had when it first reached that level of Digivolution and carry that over when it revives itself, or when you revive it into a new form, thus allowing you to train it to become even stronger than it was previously so that you can, get back to where you were when it died. This game is a simulator, so you don't really have direct control of your partners when you do battle. All you can do is direct them for attacking and defending. So again, if that's major turnoffs, then you're going to have an issue here. Again, this game is very niche, like incredibly niche. So niche, again, I didn't think this game would actually come out in the West. And if Doki Doki wasn't, itself and had its own issues, this honestly would have been at the very bottom of my list because I still like it. I still do see all the major flaws in it, and why a lot of people probably wouldn't like it. Again, this game is a simulator, and you will feel like you're raising up your little Digimon partners, which is the point of this game. That includes basically you'll be doing everything from feeding, cleaning, as well as taking care of their poop. Word of advice, the portable toilet item will be your very best friend, and there's Digimon that hands one free out daily. Make him your best friend. So yeah, while this isn't a game for everyone, I do believe it's worthwhile for any Digimon fans, as well as fans of old school sim-style games, or if you played the original Digimon World games and are looking to rekindle that magic if you found those games enjoyable. Again, I personally find this game great, I just don't find it as good as Cyber Sleuth was, and that's saying a lot of things. Mainly because I'm more preferable to turn-based RPGs than simulators, but I still again enjoy this game, its story, as well as the art direction done by the dude who did the Devil Survivor games art direction. Man, I love this style. So that makes two visual novel games to be on my list. With Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. My god, that title is a bit of a mouthful. But this one's more normal than Doki Doki Literature Club was. Now, I'm going to mention the footage I'm using. This is footage from the I mentioned free demo of the game that's freely available on the PlayStation Network as well as Steam. This is mainly because any footage outside of the prologue that I use for this game can constitute a major plot spoiler. And as Danganronpa is a story-based visual novel game, you might not be into it if I spoil a major plot point for you, so I'm just gonna get it right out of the way and just use this demo, which has no connection to the overall plot whatsoever. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the footage at all if you're a fan of Danganronpa and know what I'm talking about. Now, like any release within a major video game franchise or a minor video game franchise with a very passionate fan base, everyone was curious when they announced a new video game in this franchise. A new mainline game, especially after the Spear Girls happened, and that was a Gaiden game. And with it finally out, it's honestly one of the most divisive entries in the entire franchise, which also includes the Danganronpa 3 anime, which is very, very divisive amongst the fan base. But me personally, I have to admit I do enjoy this game as to why it is on this list. Now, for those who've never played a Danganronpa game, the plot is actually simple when you take it down for brass tacks. The plot follows a bunch of high school students trapped in a very certain location, most often a school of some sort, and told by a monochromatic bear known as Monokuma to start killing each other to get out. Now, that is simplifying the plot and everything else very much to the bare bones here. There's a lot more than that going on, but it's something that you have to discover as you play the games, but that's basically the framework that each of the main three games in the franchise are built up upon. Now, as for the gameplay, the game kind of plays like an odd mix of Phoenix Wright and a Professor Layton game at points. Honestly, I do love the mix, and it's not just from the game crossover that those two have had. Like a Phoenix Wright game, the highlight of the game is the trials that take place. And if you ask me, these are some of the best trials that we've had in terms of the overall mechanics and flow of them to date. The new mechanics, like any of the games, do have their bit of crap and some of their good points, but a good number of them are pretty enjoyable and make the trials a lot more energetic and more fun to play. Another highlight of any Danganronpa game are the various characters that you can interact with, and while we have some mixed characters here and there, I do believe as an overall group they're pretty great. Some are a bit flat, and some have a little bit more under the surface layer. They all have their various quirks and their jokes, and while some do get a laugh, some are often tiresome, like one character's perverted male jokes. Albeit she doesn't come off as a gigantic male hater, it's just a random joke she happens to have about her character. One of the characters I do want to bring a gigantic highlight to, who has become a pretty strong fan favorite, is the Ultimate Supreme Leader, Kokichi Oma. And again, he is a pretty great character in addition to the cast, and pretty much fills in a role that we were wondering who would take on since Danganronpa 2, for those of you who catch what I mean by that. Now, let's talk a quick aside about the twist for those of you who do know what the twist is in this game. And I'm going to say this because I'm probably going to make a video about this twist somewhere on the line when the game hype has died down a bit more. I mean, it's been a few months, but kind of wait a little bit more time. I am that lazy. I do believe that this twist, it's ultimately dependent on what the next game in the series will partake in. If there is no more Danganronpa after this game, then it's a mediocre to middling twist. It really doesn't do much, but you ain't saying anything more, we'll kind of give it away. But if there is a next game in the franchise, it could be interesting to see where they take this twist and if certain characters were actually lying or not. Again, I won't say any more. Overall, if you're a fan of Danganronpa, you'll enjoy or might become infuriated by this game's existence and its overall plot. I will say that it is a visual novel, and if you're curious about the game or its gameplay or its characters, again, there's a free demo on Steam, so you can pick that up and get a quick aside about how you might understand this game. So yeah, Danganronpa is a pretty fun experience, but I do believe you have to temper yourself with it. My god, Sonic, you are an interesting franchise to follow. It's basically a gigantic jump of highs and lows of the Sonic franchise, and some very funny misdirections, such as that Sonic anniversary party that happened last year. But one of the major things from that party were the announcement of 2 games, Sonic Forces and Sonic Mania, coming out in this year, and by now they're out. And I'm talking about one of them. So, with 2 Sonic games came out in the same year, one 2D, one 3D, which of the games is the best? And it's Sonic Mania. I honestly can't compare the two, not just because one's a 2D Sonic, one's a 3D Sonic, but in terms of overall quality, 2D Sonic won this one, and Sonic Mania is the better of 2 games. Sonic Mania is a massive classic throwback to the original 3 Sonic titles, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I'm counting Sonic and Knuckles with Sonic 3 because it's just an add-on to Sonic 3, so I'm still saying 3 games while they're technically 4. You can debate semantics in the comments. Again, this is a game that was made actually by Sonic fans. The group that made this game have experience porting the classic Sonic games over to the iOS store. Again, Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles. I heard that the Sonic and Knuckles might not be on there, but I know Sonic 3 is on there. But anyway, yeah, this is a game made for fans, by fans, with new stages, classic stages, and good old chiptune music. It sounds like some Sonic fan's wet dream. And, well, it lived up to the hype. I'm going to tell you all right away. I am not the biggest Sonic fan out there in the world. I'm very casual about the series. Someone who watches, and if a really good game comes out, like Generations, which was honestly the last Sonic game I bought, aside from this one, then I pick it up. But if the game is middling to poor, then I just look at it from afar and see how the whole Sonic fanbase reacts. And speaking of that, my only interaction with the 2D Sonic games has been the Sonic Advance series, as well as Sonic CD. Or at least it's mobile port of this, which this team has also made. So for the 2D side of things, I'm very shallow in my experience with it all. With that said, that doesn't mean I'm going to have a gigantic fangasm over this game in particular, which is kind of sad, but I do understand why fans are having gigantic orgasms while playing this game. It's basically, again, giant fan-like material. The game is smooth, which is kind of sad to say about a Sonic game considering the state of the franchise, and it's a perfect example about what care and attention being paid to a project can do. You hear that? Care and attention to a project. Not rushing it out to meet a deadline. And before anyone else mentions it, that opening segment, that opening movie that starts off the game, is just excellent. It gets you really hyped to play the game, and it's in such a great style that honestly does make me kind of wish we had a Sonic cartoon in that style. And of course, there's the glorious meme fuel of Knuckles and Knuckles mode, which is just great. Then we have the levels, which, unlike Forces, has really great level design, as well as some new mechanics on some old stages, and some great new additional stages here. Like, seriously, can we? But I do have to mention one thing real quick. Can we seriously stop starting off at Green Hill Zone? It's gotten old and stale. I know this is an anniversary game, but almost literally every Sonic game starts off with Green Hill Zone or Green Hill Zone analog. Can we get something different? Please, it's getting really old, and I just need a new remix theme, okay? Also, special stages don't suck. They take after the CD stages, which, having very little experience with special stages, are my favorite by default. And, of course, by following this video, you can tell my ideal character to play this game is Tails. And well, I can't thank the game enough for bringing back my favorite twin-tailed fox and putting him back in action. I will say this, one of the major annoyances I do have is, because I'm playing the PC version, is that the PC version has some minor issues when it first launched, with controller support, full screen support, stuff like that, as well as de nouveau. Now, honestly, a lot of those issues, aside from de nouveau, have been worked out. But if you have to get Mania, I do recommend you get it on something that is on PC, unless you can somehow subvert de nouveau, which I highly recommend you do because de nouveau is a piece of shit. So yeah, Sonic Mania, good game. De nouveau sucks ass.